In this episode, we are talking about what went wrong with this Ford Ranger automatic transmission. So if you own a Ford Ranger or a Mazda BT50 with a 3.2 litre, even if you're in the States and you've got the Coyotes or anything that's got the Ford 6R80 transmission, we're taking this apart. Today I'm joined with Trev. Trev's actually my operations manager here and he's been here forever. How long? Come on. Is that 1
15,
or 2 long service?
15, I think. Nearly 2.
2 long service. How's that? He's made his second long service here already. He's been here that long. So he's chief in charge and he knows a lot more about it than what I do. Well, no, that's what he tells me all the time anyway. But anyway, we'll get started. We're going to pull this transmission apart. The reason why we've chosen this particular one is because I know it's got multiple faults. So it gives me an opportunity to show you more things. We haven't actually taken it apart. We just know. We do so many of these things that we fully understand what goes on with them and everything like that. And I'll get Trev to start taking it apart. We'll go through step by step. We're also going to be getting all the way to the valve body, and we're actually going to be doing something a little bit different in this episode where we're actually vacuum testing the valve body, because in these Ford Rangers, the valve bodies are probably the #1 major fault that we see. A lot of people misinterpret having to have their transmission rebuilt and repaired, when in actual fact, I would safely say that 80% of the time it is valve body related, whether it be lead frames or the valve body is just failing leak tests.
Solenoids.
And some solenoids, not as common, but some solenoids. And then obviously the obvious things that these things don't really run an aftermarket cooler, which gives them a bit of bother in another area. And this is supposed to be attached to the torque converter, and it's not. So this is a very, very common thing. So if anybody out there got a Ford Ranger and heard the story of what happens when the flex plate, well, not even a flex plate, it's actually the torque converter, the plate that is basically attached to the torque converter from factory, completely shears off. This is what they're actually talking about. So I'll pull this out. If you want to take that auto and just start taking it apart for me, Trev.
Yep.
So this is the torque converter out of it. And on this particular model, this plate comes, and what it looks like, that it has little posts that comes out. What is it? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 posts that stick up out of the transmission. It looks like it's been riveted in. See if I can get close enough here to show you what looks to be rivets. But on the back, they actually just shears them off completely. Just snaps them all off. You can go for it.
Go.
Yeah, no, you
Done.
just go for it. And this is very common on the Series 2, the PK Ranger Series 2 and Series 3. Not so common on the Series 1, and the reason for that is that in between these gaps, you'll see that there's a gap. On the Series 1, they actually used to put extra posts in. So they actually had more locating. The Series 1 didn't tend to snap the plate off the back of the torque converter. But on the Series 1 torque converter, they had another major fault inside the torque converter, which was with skid plates. So we build the Billet torque converter. So later on in this episode, we'll actually put this torque converter and we'll put the Billet torque converter side by side, and we'll show you what we do to solve this problem, as well as all the internal problems there. Even lowering the stall, getting better fuel economy, everything. We'll do that, but we'll show you that a little bit later on. Put that aside.
Sorry, just a sec. You said PK Ranger.
What is it?
PX.
PK. PX. You need to tell me when I do it.
I didn't know whether to interrupt or not. I didn't know.
He lets me talk for 15 minutes and then tells me I said the wrong car. You know? Anyway, it's not a PK, it is the PX, and I should know better than that. So the PX 2 and 3 series had the problem with the plate. The PX1 had a problem with an internal problem within the torque converter itself. All right. Thanks for making me look like a twit on camera. We're off to a great start. Eh? Ring Rodney, he knows what he's doing. He's the specialist in the field. I don't even know what car you drive.
Slip of the tongue.
My wife's called me many worse things. Right, so this is fairly normal. I want to show you this. See this pan? For a transmission, I mean the oil's obviously black. I mean, just look at it. It is absolutely dripping black. It smells old, not horribly burnt given the colour, right? It is a little bit transparent. And this is very, very common, that when we take off the pan on these Ford Rangers, you find very little. This is really, really common. Unlike most other cars, if they come in for a rebuild, you take the pan off, you're pretty well expecting to see, you know, a bunch of stuff, whether it's friction material or the magnets all choked up and all that. But the Ford Ranger doesn't. And the reason why is because the customers are convinced that while their transmission is slipping so bad or they've got these other problems, it's more common enough that it's actually another issue. So they never make it to the point where they break. They always get brought into us for another problem, which turns out not to be what they think it is. Next.
Oh.
Take the valve body off. You already got the filter off?
Yeah.
Little tricks getting these little buggers off, I tell you. Just in there.
Yep. And those three. I think that's it.
It's pretty good when they've been doing it long enough that they know the exact bolts that need to come out. These valve bodies, you can see all these bolts, and I'll actually ask for a close-up here. You got, great, you there? So all the bolts you're going to take out, you actually got to know the very few bolts that you need to take out to actually pull the valve body out.
Right, that should come off once I pull this sleeve out.
The rubber sleeve out.
Yep. One of the other big problems.
And those Trev's got a big pair of pliers here. Give us that for a sec. And the pliers.
You want that?
A delicate part being manhandled by a man, right? A gorilla, right? This delicate part, but we don't reuse them. They get thrown in the bin and that, so that's why he's just taking them out. We're actually one of the few that you've got to turn around every single time. This is where the wiring goes through for all the solenoids and everything to come through to the outside. You don't want that in the bin?
I keep them. Oh.
Well, lucky that my shot was so bad it didn't make it in the bin after you said that.
Told you I always forget one. There's one left.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Can you?
Give me that.
That's yours.
All right, I'll have a look. I'll move this over here so we can have a look. So, on this valve body, you'll notice that we've got all the solenoids. There is an early and a late valve body. We call them like a type 1 and a type 2. The early ones have a hole, don't have the hole.
Don't have the hole.
Don't have the hole. And the late ones have this big hole here. Other than that, they're actually pretty well the same, and they're actually interchangeable as well. But the solenoids are not interchangeable, right? These solenoids are actually tuned to the calibration file that's put into your car, right? And you'll notice that on these solenoids that they have a little number on them, all right? And different, you can pull 20 valve bodies out and have different sequences. What they do is that when they design and build these solenoids, not all of them fall exactly within a range that they want. They might be out by a little bit up and down. And years gone by, they just throw those solenoids out and just run with the ones in a range. In later years, they worked out that if they just did a calibration change, they wouldn't waste any of those solenoids. So they started to number the solenoids in a what would you call it, a performance range, right, that they would work. And then they can actually use all those solenoids. The downside of it is that you can't just grab any solenoid out of anything or put a brand new one on it. You've got a faulty solenoid, you need to know the exact number of that solenoid, and only that number will go back in that one spot. So you've got to be really careful. When we do the valve bodies, we just do the valve body and that. We make them all heavy duty, we make them into our Nomad valve body, and then you just reuse your own solenoids in exactly the same thing. Don't mix them up. If you take solenoids off, make sure you lay them out in the exact way that you know how they go on. Lead frame. This is actually a lead frame. You may have heard from it in Ford Rangers, and we must get, how many times a week we get a phone call?
It's 2 or 3 a day.
2 or 3 a day.
It's just that time. Yeah.
People looking at just the lead frames, right? So there's different elements to this, and you get all sorts of faults. What sort of faults have you heard happening from a lead frame?
Speed sensors.
Like, they just drop out completely?
Drop out, they go to 0 on the reading.
Yeah.
The range sensor, which is your inhibitor switch if you're an old school sort of thing, which is that bit right there.
Oh, on the side, that's the range sensor.
Yeah, tells you what gear you're in. And then the circuit from there to the solenoids, every part of it fails. Yeah. There is no good part of it.
So there's many different things, but like I said, the speed sensor and the inhibitor switch, or what do you call it, range sensor, I call it, it's a very, very common thing to happen with the lead frame. And you know what? It's almost impossible to find these lead frames. Really, really hard, you know. We do have a system here that we do offer them with a Nomad valve body if it's requested, because it is an added cost. And you only change it if you need to change it, because they do cost a bit, you know what I mean? And I don't know why they just don't make them regularly, but you used to be able to buy lead frames.
Yeah.
Now they're just near on impossible. This is the bit we're going to take in to the rebuild room when we got this apart, and we're actually going to test it. And I'll show you when we test it. We're actually going to vacuum test each of the valves and that and see how they're wearing in the bores.
This is the next critical bit.
Ah.
There.
All right. So, Craig, need to close up? All right. In here, underneath the valve body, this is what we call the thermostatic bypass valve. These are done in such a way that they've got a pin in them. So they're a bit like a vehicle's water thermostat, all right? So as they heat up, the pin actually extends out, gets pushed out by a fluid, and as it gets pushed out, pushes against the valve body, open it, and it opens the oil circuit. And on these things, the oil cooler is normally attached onto the side of the bell housing here, and it opens it up. So at about 90 degrees. So it's very, very late that they actually open these up. So when we do a Nomad valve body or we do a rebuild of any sort, we actually throw these in the bin. They're tosses of things, they really are. We put our own valve in it that we specially make, which is a thermal bypass. We also do it as a kit, so people can turn around and actually just take the valve body out, put the thermal kit, whack it back in. They're doing a service at the same time and away they go. And it just runs the cooler all the time. Whether you've got an aftermarket cooler or whether you're just going to run the original cooler, it just runs the thermal valve full time. And when you do that, it helps greatly with the longevity of the oil. What have we got next? The
Pumps
pump.
coming out. I was doing that while you were doing your thing.
Corking.
Bet it works. There we go.
All right, so let's look. A pump, what we'll do, Trev, we'll take this apart and have a look at it.
Yep. Yeah, it's
initially got a lot of tarnish on it, which I'm not surprised by the oil that's in it. But the trouble with all the tarnish is that all the thrust and everything are going to run over the top of this. That's just a thrust ring. You might as well take it, just whip it apart.
Yeah.
Go for it.
There's one of the rivets off the torque plate.
Look at that.
Sitting in the bell housing.
Just sitting down the bottom. We'll discover that a little bit later. Do you ever normally find much goes wrong with the pumps?
No, not really. If anything goes wrong, it's because the bushers internally fail.
Yep.
And the shaft hits the side or wears on the ring landing on the inside.
So they're not like the old Toyota 4-speed Highlanders that
no.
torque converter lets go and it takes the pump and everything else with it.
Very rare, yeah. You'd have to continue driving it. You'd know there's a problem, you'd have to continue driving it. The good thing about the failure with that, you know instantly, because it stops. Yeah. You know, you can't do any more damage.
Sure they've got enough bolts here?
Yeah. I
think I've said this once before. There's two more there.
No, it's on the other side.
I think I've said this once before. Sometimes you get pumps that got like 4 bolts in it. This one's got about 15 of the things. You just want to upend them into there?
Yeah, just upend them, shake them out in there. Yep, that's it.
Oh, one went over the top. Mix a couple. That is it. All right. Just a pop out.
Yep. Should be 3 pieces. Yep. That's it. And you get one more hit and that stator will pop out.
Bottom one.
Yep.
Look at that.
4 pieces. Yep.
All right. We'll have a look. This is obviously the stator side. I'm not suspecting anything to be wrong with it, but we will check the rings. And the reason why I'm pretty confident about these Ford Rangers when it comes to internal faults, especially when we've taken the pan off and not found anything in the pan, is that we do hundreds of these, and we very much know, you know, what's common with them and what tends to let go. And certainly rings and seals are not one of them.
Yep.
So that's all fine. Nothing wrong with that. This is the front pump assembly. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good. And these are the gears. We'll look at the gears. Nice and black. We don't have a track. We don't know how many Ks this thing's done, have we?
No, not sure. No, not sure.
So those gears are just like
Yeah, they're
absolutely
very
brand new.
Yep.
You know, like even the bush is actually in a bit of wear on one side, but
Yep.
considering the oil's not great, I'm surprised that it did that. Now I've done it. Which way does that go in? That way?
Yep. And a light scratch on the top of the outer ring there, on the outer gear.
Yeah,
Nothing.
in actual fact, I don't even think you'd
No.
feel that.
Nah.
But we still resize them anyway, so they get lineaged a little bit, and just make sure there's no marks. I'll reshuffle here. What's next?
Big bit.
Well, I gather that comes apart into
Lots of
many different
lots of
parts.
pieces. Alright.
So it just doesn't pull apart.
No.
All right, once again,
I'll go get something to sit it on. That might be the easier thing. Sorry, I
Yep.
forgot that. Yeah,
You
I'll
do
be
that.
back in a sec.
Hey.
I'm just hobbling along. So go other way. Yep. Go that
God,
down,
the
down
day
in
you're
there.
still using old Borg Warner 35
If it ain't
40
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
extension housings
All right.
to hold up parts.
Now the opening's there.
Yeah,
This is
I'll crack him open. Burst him open. We'll get a look. Put my glasses on properly. Stop trying to look over things.
there. You go. Start pulling.
Put the whole lot out. Oh
Yep.
yeah.
There you go. Yep. Yep.
Does anything ever go wrong with any of these big splines?
Bushes in the middle of it. The splines
No,
not really.
everything's-
No.
Everything's perfect there. Gotta get everything in the way here, so I shuffle things around. Yep.
Yep.
Next.
Grab that one. Yep. And the drum. Yep.
You ever see the shafts break or anything?
Not particularly, again, bushes. If you have a look at how this thing's designed, there's a centre support way down the back half,
Yep.
and everything runs off front bushes. So,
So if something goes wrong with the lube down the back,
or even one of them wears out and moves around, then everything moves around.
let's go. All right. Clearance is good. Where's a little driver so I can get this out?
That's all you on a smaller screwdriver.
Each to their own.
Yep. And I'll get rid of that now.
That bit.
Hey.
Only one clutch. Oh,
Yeah, one in that, another one in there. Yep.
Look at that. Not a problem with the frictions. They look.
Given the condition of the oil, they're always
There's a couple of little.
unique.
If they're showing signs of age, no blackness, no slip. Geez, there's not even any glazing on them. They've done really well. I've got a couple of little divots in a couple of little spots. They're near on impossible to show you on camera, but they look like a little blister in the lining. It's more of an age thing, but they do another round, those frictions. Drum's good. All the teeth are good. All right, so I'll put that with that. I don't need to reassemble these for you guys. You're right.
I'll work it out.
I mean, look at
That's
these.
the other
These
clutch.
look like they're bloody. Look like they were just put in yesterday. Look at them. What you can see. I'll come up a bit closer to show. But get the shine out of them. But look at them. If you were suspecting that they would be black if they were burnt. But it begs the question. So far we've got, and we'll get down to the bottom ones and that. It's like, why is the oil so dark if the all the frictions are looking really, really good? Well, we'll get to that soon.
I can pull that out later. Otherwise, you're going to sit here and watch me for 10 minutes trying to get it out.
What's that? This? No, this is
That
fine.
gear set, there's a circlip on the inside that's very hard to get
Not
to.
worried about the circlip.
There's a lot of
Just worried about
Yeah.
the thrust, the steels, the bearings, everything, the landings where all the rings go. There's nowhere. There's just no wear anywhere in this box. So far, next.
Yes.
So what clutches are these? Do you know what they are?
Oh, now you're going to question me. They're being a ZF type of gearbox.
ZF copy almost, aren't they? They're under license.
Under
from
license,
ZF.
so they're marked as A clutch, B clutch, C clutch, and it's usually front to back.
Yep.
Yeah, see a small one there, I believe is A, and that's
Anytime
B,
I ask
C.
him an awkward question, he can't answer it and that, just cut it out.
Yeah.
Or no, leave it in, it makes me look better.
Yeah. That's fine.
Bearings. Sticking cameras up between the worker's legs and arms, just to get in his way. Just put something right in his view as he tries to concentrate on it. We normally give him 3 or 4 minutes and then we start teasing him about how long it's taken him to get a single circlip out. Like, how hard is it? How many of these boxes you built?
Hey? I don't know. Yeah, nearly triple digits probably.
Triple digits? He's never, yeah, and it looks like it's his first go taking a circlip out.
Hey? Yeah, right.
Here we go. See what I... Which circlet? Oh, so you've got to hold them together.
Yep. And it's a wedged, like a
Why don't
tapered
you
circle.
turn it around and just pull it out sideways?
Hey?
You can't get in behind it, is it?
Tapered circlet. Yeah, you can't get it behind it anywhere. There is one spot you can do it, but it won't.
It's impossible. You'll go.
Yep, back in.
I got up to where he was.
I might try the other pliers. I've had good success with them ones, but
That's a serious...
these are the ones you actually buy for them, but those ones, those are the ones we bought on eBay.
Yeah, have a look at it. This is...
That's the eBay,
Yeah, have a
eBay
look at this.
special.
Things have escalated a little bit from this size to this stocking crate set. There you go. Ooh. Wow,
That was close.
Good.
If I, yeah, let me see if I get that again. Nope. Happy?
Look at this. That is a solid circlet. No wonder. It's always going to be in perfect condition, no matter what you do to it, getting it out. What's next?
Done. The centre support now. Right. Okay.
Have a look at this. I'll bring that up this end.
Yep.
Where's that little... Once again.
Can I just grab before you that little thing there? Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That's the locators.
Yep. It's just... This last friction set? No, there's one more.
One more. So the piston on the bottom side of that that applies it.
Same as the last one. Absolutely. While the frictions are dark, they're naturally dark, even from factory when you put them in brand new, the part dark.
Ratchet sprag.
Yeah.
Come back around retro. Yeah.
You ever see them fail?
No, because
So they're actually a good thing.
Old technology, like gearboxes before you started building were probably ratchet sprags.
What,
But
you mean, what, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah. But
No.
yeah, they work. It's almost impossible to break them.
So you never see any of the housings
No,
break?
it's exactly what the same ratchet you know, just spatter set. You know what I mean?
I've seen them fail more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like-
Yep.
All right. Next, what have we got?
We got the main gear set coming out. So, sun gear and a set of bearings.
They look perfect. Look in the... Yeah, stonking great roller bearing.
Yeah. Yep.
They do that to hold the speed down. When you got little roller bearings, they roll really, really far. I'll explain that.
Yep.
It's unusual to see roller bearings that are so chunky. They're a very, very chunky piece. They're probably a bit blurry there, but they're a very, very chunky piece. And the reason why they do it, the sun gear tends to go around pretty quick. This is the inner sun gear. So you do get them with little roller bearings, but because they're so small, they're going to spin so much faster to keep up. So sometimes, as in the Ford Ranger and that, they put really big fat roller bearings in so they actually don't travel so fast in speed. So they can keep up. this the last one?
Last one.
Geez, that's like the third one. Absolutely perfect. Another one that's... Try and get the right light. You can see the nice tan on it. So...
That is a really strong gear set. They're brewing in that.
Well, the size, look at the
they're
stock.
brewing. That's why they put so much power through it.
Gee, that's as big as a 480E set, if not more chunky.
Yeah.
Once again, you never see these fail. Bearings all look good. There's no real movement. No. Trying to do sideways movement, which means I'm trying to cock it sideways. That tells me whether the rollers are gone. There's no heat build up. Look at the size of the pins. I don't think I've seen. I've got to say, that's probably one of the most substantial
really
planetary sets that I've ever seen. And it's in a little 3.2 litre diesel. So it's obviously meant for bigger things. That is a stonking great planetary set. I'm actually quite impressed with it.
Yeah.
Output shafts,
Sharp, pretty straightforward.
good, short, heavy duty, nice and thick. Splines are good. Bearings, thrust surfaces, teeth, that's everything in there.
That is it.
That leaves the case.
Empty.
All right, so
It's everything.
we're going to go inside and we're going to do, we're going to take the valve body partially apart. We're going to do a leak down on the valve body so we can then work out what else has gone wrong. What may have caused the oil to go dark? Well, look, we've gone as far as what we can do for the oil part. This is just a classic case, right, of the temp just being run too high for so long, right? The thermal bypasses, and you'll notice that the new 10 speeds that we have in the current Ford Rangers and that don't have a thermal bypass at all. Right? What they did, and what we believe, is that Ford intended to run this oil much hotter for a longer period of time. And what they do is when you run the oil hotter, the oil's thinner, the pump's got less resistance, therefore your emissions, the power levels, everything all goes. What they did with the 10 speed, they left the thermal bypass out and they actually run a naturally thin oil. So technology in oil had changed enough where they could turn around and run a thinner oil again, right, but not have to run a thermal bypass, which means they didn't need to thin that oil any further, or they didn't want to thin that oil any further. Yeah. It's hard to say. But a transmission cooler and a thermal bypass on this thing is mint. And that, I'll show you why. Not just the colour of the oil and the effect it has, but look, the seals are great. All the frictions are perfect. This transmission did not fail because of frictions and everything. We already know that. This transmission come in because the plate snapped off the back of the torque converter. But the big thing I want to show you now is the valve body. Because the valve body, there's a lot to say about the valve body when it comes to problems, and it's the valve body that catches everybody out. We're in the rebuild room, and this is actually, we can look around, you've got the entire rebuild room. Normally there's like 3 or 4 of them in here. This is all of our shelves back here that we put all the individual valve bodies in from all the different makes and models and that. So this is the main bench that Trev uses to not only to remanufacture the valve bodies, but also modify and actually test and bits and pieces like that. So let's get this one apart and we'll get into testing it. This is the lead frame. There she is. So that's the problem for many people, is this thing. I don't know why the Ford don't make it more readily available for people.
Right.
Yeah, we mentioned that before. Whenever you take solenoids off valve bodies, you need to know the exact order that they go in. Because if you put them in the wrong order, it'll thump and bang and carry on like a pork chop. So, not that I know what a pork chop thumps and bangs like, but yeah.
That's it. Done. That should be all of them.
tight with you.
Yep. Yeah, usually you got to persuade it a little bit. Yep.
Oh, that was easy.
That should come apart now.
Lift him up.
Yep.
And
with the plate.
flip him over.
Yep.
All right, that's already movable. You notice that the factory plate actually looks like it's got gaskets on it, but they're actually moulded on. It's what we call a bonded plate.
Yeah.
So quite a tricky ones, and you've got different ones with different part numbers depending on what it's for. Whenever we do valve bodies, we put a brand new one on every single one with the same number. So how do we test these?
I've got to get as much of the oil out of it as possible, and then we'll put our test plate on it. We'll check the main valves that fail on it, and go from there.
All right, let's go clean it up.
Clean it up.
Oh, we've got the two halves apart. Now, Trev cleaned this half, so we don't need to do much with this half because there's only 4 little on-off valves in that, so we don't really need to do a lot with that for the testing that we're going to be doing. Now, we've got 2 valve bodies here. This is the one that belongs with that, and this is one that we've actually, one of our Nomad ones that we've actually just made up. So what we're going to do, we're going to do a comparo. We're going to show you what came out of the auto that we just took apart compared to what it'll end up being by the time we finish, but more importantly, why everybody's having these problems. So let's get this plate on.
Yep.
So we've got this little test plate that goes on each one. And what we're going to do, we're going to test one valve and then we're going to bounce over to the new one so we can actually show you the before and after of what it actually should be.
Okay. This is your main solenoid regulator valve.
What's that sitting at?
10 inches of vacuum.
That's 10. All right, let's try it on a
vacuum. On
a no and good.
Yeah.
Oh wow, what's
20,
that?
23, 24.
23. So the difference is, that was 10.
13.
That's 23, right? Vacuum, so over double is good. So this one, what do you say? So that's a complete failure of that valve. Yeah. Let's try another one.
So if we come back to
which valve?
One that'll fail will be the main regulator.
Right,
that'll always fail.
This is the big one. That's about 8.
8.
When it should be about 18.
17, 18, yeah.
Yeah, 17, 18. So let's do another one. I just want to keep going with these valves to see exactly how many of them have actually failed.
So this is the top half of the main regulator.
Yep.
So 11.
Yep. Let's switch that one over.
Yeah.
16. All right. Is there any more?
They were the main 2 failures with that one.
So there's more. We're not going to check them all.
A lot of little leakages.
But to show you that this is the main reason that we get phone calls here, all right, is that people come to us and they've got problems. A lot of other people, they just assume that the transmission is absolutely buggered and it needs to be rebuilt. They take the pan off, they see the black oil. But the black oil's because it's not running a cooler. It's got a, not running a bypass valve, so it makes it look very bad. And then they've got slips and bumps and everything, unless you've got a catastrophic failure, which means that it's just not driving or you're missing reverse completely or something that's pretty bad. But all the ones where they're just little slips and bumps, what other things do you get that comes in that's like?
Torque converter shutters.
Torque converter shutters and another one.
Yep.
And all of these things are actually caused by the fact that the landings on the valve bodies have actually worn, which means the valve wears out the landings to the point where all the oil is just slipping past it. What we do and how we fix it is that we actually got testing machines here, we test them, then we go through and we actually ream out all those landings to a bigger size and we put oversized valves in them. And even some of those valves are modified to have bigger landings on to reduce that again. How do we try and stop it from happening again? Put a cooler in it. Because I really believe that the fact is that this valve, the aluminium on this valve body is running so hot all the time, right, that it becomes that little bit more malleable, and the valve's actually able to wear it in and wear the landings down. So it is so important to do it. You put a good cooler in it, you put a bypass valve in it, and in most cases, and I would safely say, what did I say before? 70, 80%, whatever. I'd say 70% of cases, we can actually fix most problems just with a Nomad valve body, right? You still get the occasional lead frames, as we mentioned before. Your lead frames failing, they give us a thing. And you get things like the catastrophic with the torque converter also failing as well, where the plate breaks off. But what do you reckon? We go and have a look.
Solenoids is another issue?
Solenoids are not as common though as the other ones.
But still.
But at least that lead frame and solenoid, everything's got to do with the valve body. We've already proven, we've gone and taken the transmission apart and gone through all the hard parts in the transmission, all the rings, all the frictions and that, didn't find anything wrong. And I reckon that happens 98% of the time that we take a transmission here apart, there is nothing wrong in the middle of it. It's always based around the valve body or the occasional one where the torque converter ring snaps off the ring. But before we go, let's show you the before and after of the torque converter. So there's the old one. We'll pop that down. This is one of our new ones. This is one of the billet ones that we do. You notice the big difference with the billet one is that it doesn't even have that plate. It's completely gone. We actually turn around and make a big ring that's all welded in properly. We change the studs to bolts. The little piddly spigot busher on the back, or bigger on the back, it's actually made into a big slug there. It's actually a low stall torque converter as well, making it a lot more efficient. Yep. All the bearings are upgraded to be the later ones, which are actually much better than the early ones and that. And the combination of all those things is what turns around and makes the difference between a billet torque converter and the old one that people have trouble with. So, if you've got a Ford Ranger or a Mazda BT50 and you've had any of these problems, please put it in the comments below. What did you do? What had happened? Did you have to get a rebuild or whatever else and that? Tell us, did you like what we did? First time you actually probably met Trev, so that's another team member ticked off, and we'll be seeing a lot more of Trevor in these type of episodes. And let us know what your thoughts are, and please like, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one. See ya.
I was built to last with the limbs I'm weaving. I could change the past, follow up on achieving. Got my foot on the gas, never stop competing. If you break my glass, then this life's coming.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society.